I have a question.
Yeah.
It's not related to the practice, so I'm
That's okay. It can be any Dharma question.
okay. Anyway, see if you want to answer it. So it's slightly personal, but I'll make it a bit more generic. So advice really of perhaps a way of approaching something that you really desire in your life, in my life, there's something specific, whilst being able to not let it, so obviously we all have desires all the time, but not letting it turn into watching like how to not make it create so much disruption.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Well, we can all try to answer that. Well, the one thing you can do is you can think about, the first thing that comes to mind is the bodhicitta motivation. So if you think about how this object that you want to desire, whether it's a person or a thing, that you can think, well, somehow I need to transform this into my motivation to attaining enlightenment. So you can, it's sort of like there's outer transformation, inner transformation, more secret transformation. There's different layers of transformation of how you deal with these things. And so if you can think that I'm experiencing this desire for all sentient beings, seems a bit cheating, but in actual fact, if you do some tonlin around it, like if this is an over-exaggerated desire, right? So just think, okay, and you admit to yourself I have an over-exaggerated desire. So the first thing you can do is do tonlin with yourself, and try to think, or with others, and think that, okay, may my over-exaggerated desire be may I take on because it's a suffering. So this suffering of ordinary desire, can I take this on for all sentient beings, right? And use it to destroy this, either the self-cherishing mind or the mind that appears to be inherently existent. So you can actually do tonlin and think, I'm taking on all this emotional affliction of myself for all sentient beings, and by taking on everyone else's, then it liberates my own. And in the beginning, that's just sort of an intellectual thing. But if you actually do it, it kind of begins to work, because what happens is it begins to soften your concept about yourself around it. Because really, the reason we have these experiences is because we over-exaggerate that person, that thing, or whatever it is, its qualities. And we also solidify our own sense of self. So you have the subject and the object, right? So one thing is that's the first thing you can do. There's a lot of things you can do. So you can try that and see if that doesn't, at least this kind of spaciousness that we're talking about, if you can try to get some spaciousness, because it's your own emotion. If you can try to get some spaciousness about that emotion by thinking that you're taking on everybody else's, because everybody has it, and so I'm going to take this on and I'm going to experience it, and I'm going to take everybody's on, and it's going to come, and by doing that it dissolves my own, and I'm going to give out to all. So then the taking is taking the over-exaggerated, and giving out is just a balanced sense of fulfilling my needs. Because we get confused in Buddhism and think that we're not supposed to have needs anymore, right? And because we think that that desiring anything or needing anything is a bad thing, but we all have needs. And so what's important is to look at what's a healthy need and what's what's a wholesome need and what's an unwholesome need. And that's up to the individual, because everybody's different. But Buddhism is very much about analysis. So if you analyze the situation and try to figure out what it is that you're lacking within yourself, this is more psychology, but what is that you're lacking within yourself that makes you over-exaggerate that? And try, and you might have to do some of this after you've done a little bit of tonlin. You can then maybe talk to your inner child. Now I'm moving into psychology, but it all is related. But talk to your inner child and find out what it is that's missing, that's fulfilled by that the idea of that, because that thing or person isn't going to really fulfill that, but the idea of it is very alluring to some part of you that's, like in Jungian terms, in your shadow. So you need to ask yourself what it is that's needing that so badly. And then try, and once you get an answer for that, then figure out how to fulfill that in a more wholesome way. And particularly if it's a person, then it's really not going to help that person for you to have this over-exaggerated desire for that person. It's going to mess up the relationship. Or if it's a thing. So the thing is to try to sort out what it is that's lacking, that's making you have such a big charge about it, and then try to heal that within yourself. And you can heal that within yourself by doing Tonglen, but you can also do it by like asking yourself, and then also, then this is another investigation. This is a step. So this is a second, and this is a third analysis. So this is on the third one. Then you can analyze the object itself, and okay, what is it about this thing that or person that I'm attracted to? You know, and try to break it down into its parts. So that's more like looking at the emptiness of it. Like, okay, this thing that I'm experiencing it's a dependent arising. Well, it's, so we look at the gross dependent arising of it. Like, okay, what are its qualities? What are the specific qualities that is attracting me? You know, because generally they're qualities that you want in yourself. So that's another way of looking at it. So how can I create those qualities in myself to be more whole, so that I don't feel like I need it from the outside? Because I think the really great thing about Dharma is that the more you practice Dharma, the less needy you become. Because I think the whole idea is sort of to become emotionally self-sufficient. Not in a cold way, but in a way, because that's why yesterday we talked about loving yourself. Like this whole thing about loving yourself is so important, because then when you enter into relationship with others, it's really a more pure love rather than a needy love, right? So what is it that I'm needing, that I'm lacking? And then visualize having it, but actually get it, you know, figure out what that, you know, give yourself that, you know. And if it's like, I don't know, you know, love from your mother or something, then just imagine you're just, because science has even shown, I don't know if you remember that movie from, I don't know, 10 years ago, What the Bleep? Did you ever see that movie? And some of the science shows that if you visualize something, the same part of your brain lights up as if you actually do it. So that kind of proves that all this visualization and Dharma works. So if you actually, and it's not just visualizing, it's feeling. So if you can actually give yourself the love you never got from your mom, you can heal it yourself. You know? So if it's that kind of thing, and then you can actually just break down that, even look it down, I mean, then you can do even more kind of cold analysis of like, okay, well, what about the parts? What is it that I like about that person, but then or that thing? And then you can also realize, then you can go more into the emptiness analysis, like, okay, there's that thing out there, it's just a basis, and I'm projecting the label on it, and it's that label that I'm putting on it that gives me the emotional affliction. So what is that label, and where's that label coming from? Because that thing out there, that table, if I'm looking at that table right now, it's just a bunch of pieces. But I put table on it, and then it becomes a table. So whatever it is, it's the object of desire. It's just some parts. Even if it's in a person, there's, you know, there's still, it's like, so what is it over and above the thing that's out there that I'm projecting on it that makes it so desirable? And once again, you'll find that it has something to do with something lacking in yourself and something that you need. And so it's really, then work on giving yourself whatever that quality is. Because it's very important to, you know, do analysis about what my needs are. And try to separate out what's the difference between a genuine need and something that's just a kind of a desire or an obsessive compulsion, you know. And kind of work with that and use the Tonglen practice.
What if it is a genuine human kind of need that
well then just do your best to fulfill it.
Yeah,
and if
it doesn't fulfill.
And if it does, if you can't fulfill it, then you just have to practice patience and meditate on emptiness and loving yourself. I mean, that's why this thing on loving yourself is so important, because really, we're the only people that can really fulfill our needs. And anytime we look to something else or somebody else or something, it might do it temporarily, but only temporarily. Whether it's, going shopping is really fun, but you spend a lot of money and a week later it's like, I don't really, so what, some things are real practical, like you need a new car, that's different, but, what else could you do? Oh, and then you can do the analysis of myself. And I think when you're really emotionally afflicted, unless you've done a lot of emptiness meditation, it doesn't help so much. But it doesn't hurt to look for the I, who is me, what is me that's feeling this? I'm sitting here and there's this feeling coming, and I have this emotional thing, but where is it in me? How, And I really like Pema Chodron, because she this comes more from the Kagyu tradition, but she says, and you've probably read her books, but she says, kind of like, drop the storyline. So in other words, drop the idea, the concept, what is you're desiring, and just feel that energy. And just sit with the energy of that desire. And it's not quite the same as how we would think about meditating on emptiness, but if you can just drop the storyline and sit with the energy in your body, particularly in the way we've been learning to sit with this hollow body and just kind of becoming, because it's so important to becoming aware when you're sitting here, just aware of the sensations and feelings, and just feel in your body where that is. And you might even be able to, once you've felt it in your body somewhere, you might be able to relax a little bit more into it and let it give itself a name or a picture or some kind of image, and see what that is, because that will help you heal that lack that creates the over projection thing. So if you can just sit, and this might be the best idea of all. I'm just talking off the top of my head. So, if you just sit and feel that. And you might find it in a particular part of your body. You might find it in a chakra even or something, and then just sort of sit with that and breathe into it. And sometimes it will just dissolve on its own. And then the last thing I would say is that, and this is the most profound practice and the one that takes some work, but it's the best one, is that idea that mind is the mirror, and these feelings, this emotional experience, is a cloud or a reflection. Like the sky is better. My mind's like the sky. It's vast and wide, and this is just a cloud in the sky. And you combine that with the one about feeling the energy, and then understand that it's just an energetic. It really isn't the thing that you think it is. It's just a form, an energy that's in your energy body. And let yourself get into that, and even to the point where as you look at it, maybe you can even, Lamy Eshe used the word penetrate. I just said that yesterday. So kind of let your bigger self penetrate that smaller self. But that takes some meditation experience. It's like, a little bit like what we're doing today, that kind of spaciousness, or that thing you get when you do Tonglen. And then slowly, it won't happen the first time you do it, but if you continue to do it, it will dissipate, and you will hear what it is that you need. Especially I think you can do it. So I think that's what I would say. Anybody want to answer any more?
Just a thought when you were talking that for me one of the most powerful things there is like that when you get it, that the quality of desirableness is something that you are projecting onto it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have it from its own side.
Exactly.
I've created that. Then even though I might still be in that feeling, but if I know that, it loses a lot of its power. I can just kind of, as you say, just be with, okay, well, this is going on. This is going on. But the feeling of compulsion. I've got to have this object because otherwise I can't have that.
Yeah.
If I know that I've put that onto it, then it doesn't have that same power.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the table, you know. You've put that label on there. You've created it. You know, that is actually in your mind. It's not out there. It doesn't mean the thing doesn't exist. The basis exists, but what you're projecting on it is coming from your mind, you know. I mean, the basis relatively exists. If you examine the basis, it doesn't exist either. But for the purposes of this, you know, you just try to understand that. Yeah, that's great.
Do you think you could repeat that part about the sky? Because that was really good.
Yeah, this is just basic Mahamudra. I mean, the mind is like the sky. And the thoughts and the feelings and the desires and the emotions are just like clouds in the sky. And so in this meditation what you do is you look at the nature of that cloud and see that it's actually of the same nature as the sky, which is the same nature of the mind. And it's very much like if you've ever laid down on a Sunday afternoon and looked up at the clouds and watched them dissipate. So if you're able to actually focus on that experience, on that thought, and just sit with it and watch it disappear, you know. And so, I mean, that's why doing very simple breathing meditation and just looking at your thoughts is very helpful, because, or your feelings, because it when you get that gap between the thoughts and the feelings, you know, that's the relative nature of mind. That's the sky. You know, it might not be emptiness, but it's certainly a place to start. And so you want, and the more you do that, the more you become familiar with the sense that, you know, everything is that I experience is for me, I like that one, is a reflection in the mirror of my mind. And so the more you can identify with the sense of mind as the mirror, and everything, including I, is a projection in that. Just like when you look in the mirror, you know that that picture of yourself isn't you, but you can see what the mirror is. So then, if you put that as a subjective experience, that, you know, if I just stop, there's just awareness, you know, and something arising in it. So what our job to do is to become more and more familiar with this, with that, the sky and the mirror, than the things that are in it. And that can only come through meditation, as far as I know. You know? Yeah. So, and you just have to, like I said, just familiarize yourself with it, or keep working with it, and just practice a little bit and every day, and slowly you can begin to feel that, because it's kind of a felt sense. It's also cognitive, but yeah, and then eventually even that can dissolve as well, and that's when you get the experience of non-duality, which is is our ultimate kind of goal. So, well, that was a good question.
Thank you.
Anything else? Does anyone else besides David want to comment on that? Because that was a good comment. No? Because we all have that, isn't it? Everybody has it. I mean, that's kind of the nature of human existence, isn't it?
Sure.
Constantly arise. Because, you know, if we didn't have it, we wouldn't survive. You know?
Which one would you say would be more difficult? So take the example of food. You know, if you desire to have chocolate, then you can, you know, you could choose to take that or leave it. But, you know, you desire to have food because you're hungry.
Yeah.
It's a need. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's difficult to do without, isn't it? And
food? No, you can't do without food. And you can't really do without chocolate either. You just don't need to eat a lot of chocolate, but everybody needs some chocolate. As long as it's healthy, you know, as long as you can deal with it.
But, you know, there's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah, well, that just comes from what they talk about, discriminating wisdom, discerning, you know, discerning the difference between a real need and an over-exaggerated desire. I mean, that's part of our job as Buddhists, is to learn to figure that out.
If you have that real need, I mean, with food, you have to have food, but there are some similar needs, shall we say, that, you know, you may not be able to fulfill, but that are kind of a natural need in a human being.
That's right.
And
We all need affection, and we need a community, and we need a good job, and we need, you know, we need more than food, clothing, and shelter, you know. We need a sense of we belong somewhere. That's why Dharma centers are so important, so that we have a sense like we have some home, place, community. That's why churches and things are
that's when it's
important.
really tough, isn't it? When, you know, you have such a strong need, feeling for that need, but you can't actually...
Well, that's why this Tonlin for yourself is so important, because you have to begin, because not only does Tonlin kind of start to give you a sense of feeling full, but the other thing that's really helpful is to meditate on looking for the I, you know, the sense of self. Because then the more and more that becomes less defined, then the easier and easier it is to go, oh, that's a nice piece of cake, I don't really want that, it's not good for me. You know, I mean, the less intense the sense of I is, the easier it is to let go of anything else.
Even something that is a kind of human need.
Yeah. I mean, the Dalai Lama says, you know, if you can do something about it, do it, and if you can't, then you just have to let go. You know, so I mean, I meet so many women my age in the United States doing this job. I mean, I don't do it that much, but they're so lonely. You know, they're just so lonely because they're, you know, their husbands have left them for a younger woman or something, and their children are grown, and they're used to having family around them, and their neediness is just so palpable, you know. And so I just feel like that's why this practice is so important, because if they could just learn to, I mean, because even doing medicine, but we're not doing Tonlin and fulfilling our, you know, doing Tonlin with ourselves, but just letting ourselves feel, you know, bliss and light and enjoyment and love, and because it's what I try to communicate with people. It comes from our own nervous system. You know, it might be triggered by something outside there, but we have the capacity to make those neurotransmitters work. You know, I mean, maybe some people don't, and they need to take antidepressants, and that's okay, because some people, their neurotransmitters don't work, you know. But there's a guy named, what's his name? Oh, he's really famous. He wrote those books, Women Are From Mars and Men Are From Venus, or John Gray. And he's done work now about the neurotransmitters and what it takes for people to be happy. And apparently, you know, men need serotonin. No, yeah, I think it's their serotonin. No, it's the other one, dopamine. Men need a certain amount of dopamine to feel contented, and women need oxytocin. And in this book he wrote a few years ago based on science, he gives these different ways that you can actually develop it yourself without needing whatever it is that you need, you know, without having to go out and buy things. It's like, and it's really helpful, you know.
You have to buy the book.
Yeah, you just have to buy the book. But that's not so bad, you know.
Just have to do it once,
Yeah. But I just found that really helpful, because then, you know, like I was telling this one woman I met in Switzerland, and she was just like you. She's recovering from a really illness. And she was so down on herself because she just didn't want to do anything. And she's used to being this really dynamic woman, and all she wanted to do was sit around and read, you know, like romance novels and watch movies. And I said, that's perfect. You know, I mean, she just needed permission. That's just the thing you need to get your oxytocin levels back up again. You need to watch silly romantic comedies and read silly books. And, you know, she was like an intellectual, and it's like, why am I doing this? And it's like, because that's just what
I watched lots of silly television.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do it.
No, but that's exactly what your brain needs. You know, and I understand now why older women particularly like what we call soap operas in the United States. I don't know what you call them here. But those, you know, family drama things, because they have no family anymore. And so this, at least for an hour a day, they get the sense that they belong to a family. And so really it's not a bad thing, you know. Especially if it would be nice if the soap operas could teach values or something, you know, but, you know, but so I think that it's really important to understand what your needs are and not feel guilty about fulfilling them, as long as you can do it in a healthy way. And sometimes an unhealthy way is even okay. I mean, occasionally it's okay to go on a binge, you know? I mean, it's like we can't be that strict with ourselves. It's like you can't beat yourself up to enlightenment. It doesn't work that way, you know? And I think part of it is like, the Tibetans are so out there, you know, I mean, they are just like, you know, wild barbarians. And so the culture, you know, when they become monks, it has to be really strict, you know, otherwise they won't pay attention. They have to threaten them with going to hell and everything, you know. But like Pabonka's Lamrim book, you know, I mean, that's written for a bunch of, but we kind of need the opposite. It's like, go out and play and enjoy yourselves, and, you know.
I love that book.
Yeah. Well, that's great, but for some people it's just a little bit too heavy, you know. I mean, I like it too. I found a lot of benefit from it, but some people just can't deal with it, you know, because they've been shamed too much already.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of heavy discipline doesn't work for everyone. So I think, you know, the whole thing about Dharma is that you kind of have to get to know yourself and then figure out how it is you can feed yourself Dharma in the right way that's right for you, because everybody's different, and people always think that, oh, this is the best way, you know, and we start kind of being chauvinist, you know, about, or you have to do it this way, or you have to do it this way, this is the way my Lama says it, or this is da-da-da, and everybody gets kind of, you know, whatever that's called, competitive or something, you know, and it's not like that. I mean, I think we really have to respect that, you know, for some people, being a mom's the best thing they can do, you know? So what's wrong with that, you know? And other people, you know, they're not, I mean, you just have to know kind of more about what your karmic predisposition is. And if you're an artist, don't try to beat yourself up about trying to do something different, you know? The thing that's so great about Buddhism, and particularly Tantra, is you can almost make anything Dharma. I mean, within reason. I mean, you can't harm people. You know, you can't go around killing people and saying, you know, I'm doing this for all sentient beings. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, you can do lots.
In some cases, somebody might kill one person for the sake of lots of other sentient beings. Like Buddha did in his previous life. You know, he did that. He killed the captain who was going to kill 500 people. But I mean, in general, I'm just trying to say, you know, look at your life, see what Joseph Campbell says, you know, follow your bliss, you know, follow your joy, find out what that is. But at the same time, you have to temper it with abandoning the 8 worldly concerns. So I think that's our problem. I mean, practicing Dharma isn't really easy. You have to be quite intelligent about it and really investigate, well, what are the 8 worldly concerns? You know, and I remember earlier on in my Dharma career, in all the books, they talk about the 8 worldly concerns as wanting fame and power and money. And I thought, well, I don't want that. So I definitely don't have the 8 worldly concerns. But that's a man's thing. Me, you know, I want a nice house and a nice family and a husband, and, you know, those are my worldly concerns, you know. So, I mean, but for somebody else, that's not a worldly concern. You have to look at your level of what you can do, because you can't make Dharma practice so hard that you feel like you're starving yourself. You have to find, you know, that level of practice that's just right on the edge of your comfort zone. You can't just be totally comfortable or you won't change, but you can't go so far that you say you put yourself in a long retreat and you just have a horrible time. You know, you can only do that when you can do that, you know. So it's kind of like, okay, so if you're doing photography, you're a photographer, okay, well, make my photography, make it my Dharma practice. How can I make it my Dharma practice somehow, you know? So it's like that, you know. That's what I think. Because I mean, we have to practice in a balanced way, because you see so many people meeting the Dharma and they just get, like I said yesterday, this serious Buddhist syndrome where they're not really, you know, you can't put yourself. Lama Yeshe used to say, you know, don't put yourself in the concentration camp. You know, he would say, grow yourself, dear. Love yourself, dear. You know, we call the students my little golden flowers, you know. And so, because we tend to get too strict, you know. Maybe it's our
Presbyterian, Protestant kind of heavy culture that tends to think that if we're going to be good people, we have to deny ourselves even basic needs, But according to Tantra, the more, if you can meditate on emptiness, and the more pleasure you have, the better. Lama used to say that all the time. You people, he'd say, you people, you don't know how to enjoy yourselves. That's your big problem. Because we kind of go to the extreme, So, yeah, what is it? It's after 3. Well, I wanted to do a little game with you guys, unless somebody else has a burning question about anything. No. Okay, because if we have a 15-minute break, is that okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we can take 10 minutes. I want to do some more of this earth, water, fire, air. Remember those exercises we did? So let's just do that for about 10 minutes, and then we'll have a break, and then at 3:30 or 3:35 we'll come back and do our last session together. Okay, how's that sound?